Malpheus, the moderately evil, adjusted his pointy hat for the 17th time that morning and consulted his weathered spellbook.
Right then, he muttered, stroking his goatee dramatically. One shadow lurker should do nicely for the Tentacle Summoning Spectacular. I've got planned. He was what you might call a budget villain. The kind who practiced his evil laugh in the mirror, but still said, "Please, and thank you," to shopkeepers. His tower wasn't particularly imposing, more like a cottage with delusions of grandeur, and his evil schemes mostly involved summoning tentacled creatures too. Well, he wasn't entirely sure what they'd do once summoned, but it seemed appropriately villainous. The forest beckoned with all the charm of a tax audit. Malpheus trudged through undergrowth that seemed personally offended by his presence, muttering incantations under his breath and occasionally tripping over roots that definitely had been there a second ago. "Ah!" he exclaimed, spotting movement in a clearing. "A shadow lurker, perfect for my dastardly weight. Is that a tea set?" Indeed, in the middle of the clearing sat an ornate table complete with delicate china and what appeared to be cucumber sandwiches. A sign reading "Free Evil Mage. Refreshments" hung from a nearby tree. Malpheus squinted suspiciously. This was either the most considerate forest in the magical realm, or trap, he shouted, just as his foot triggered the magical circle hidden beneath the autumn leaves. Purple light erupted around him like a disco ball having an identity crisis. His body began to tingle, then buzz, then feel like he'd stuck his finger in a magical socket. The world spun, colors swirled, and his goatee began to itch something fierce. When the light faded,
Malpheus looked down and immediately regretted it.
"What in the name of all that is moderately evil?" His voice came out several octaves higher and distinctly feminine. Long purple hair cascaded past shoulders that were definitely not the broad, manly shoulders he'd woken up with that morning.
Malpheus saw. Rather, Malphia now stared at her reflection in a nearby puddle.
The face looking back was undeniably female, with large eyes and delicate features that would make a porcelain doll jealous. "This is just fantastic," she groaned, her voice carrying a musical quality that made woodland creatures poke their heads out curiously. "How am I supposed to be moderately evil with this voice? I sound like I should be singing to forest animals, not commanding dark forces." The journey home proved to be an adventure in itself. Every merchant wanted to help the poor lost young lady. Every innkeeper insisted on giving her their finest room. And 3 separate knights tried to rescue her from absolutely nothing at all. "I don't need rescuing," she protested to Sir Galahad the overly helpful. "I'm a dark mage. Fear me." "Of course, miss," Sir Galahad said patronizingly. "Perhaps you'd like me to escort you to the nearest convent?" After managing to convince everyone she wasn't a damsel in distress, which took longer than she cared to admit, Malphia finally reached her tower. The familiar sight of her wanky chimney and the garden gnome she'd cursed to eternally water the petunias filled her with relief. "Home at last," she sighed, pushing open the door. "Now I just need to figure out how to reverse this spell, and then I can get back to my tentacle summon." She froze. A wet, sliding sound echoed from the depths of her basement laboratory. Then, another, and another. "Oh no!" Malphia whispered, remembering with dawning horror that she'd left her summoning circle active when she'd departed that morning. "Oh no, 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 ... The tentacles she'd successfully summoned earlier began emerging from the basement, sliding along the walls with purposeful determination. They were exactly as she'd conjured, them glistening, writhing, and apparently very excited to see their summoner had returned. But there was one tiny problem she hadn't considered in her original spell design. Tentacles, as it turned out, had very specific behavioral patterns when encountering young magical practitioners. Patterns that every anime-watching mage apprentice learned about in their first year, but which Malpheus had apparently skipped in his correspondence course education. The largest tentacle turned toward her with what she could only describe as enthusiastic interest, followed by its smaller companions, all sliding closer with an eagerness that made her stomach drop.
Malphia backed toward the door.
Her new feminine intuition, screaming warnings that her former masculine obliviousness had never possessed. Oh. Double quotes. She breathed, watching as more tentacles emerged from every corner of her cottage, surrounding her with writhing, glistening determination. Oh no. The realization of exactly what tentacles were magically programmed to do, when they encountered female magic users, hit her like a runaway cart.
Holy.